welcome back to Streaming Media West 2022. I'm Tim Siglin, contributing editor with Streaming Media Magazine, and also the founding executive director of Help Me Stream Research Foundation. And today I've got with me Jonathon Barbato. Now, Jonathon, what's your company and what's your background in the industry?
Yeah, I am the co-CEO of Best Ever Channels. We launched Fast Channels. We have a couple of SVOD and AVOD channels as well.
Okay.
My background is I was head of marketing at Starz Media Channel. I was head of MGM TV. I go way back in terms of broadcast, cable, and now Fast.
Okay. And I don't know if you had a chance to see our session yesterday where we talked about sort of the fast channel trend, but obviously fast channels are becoming a thing all of a sudden for everybody. What's your sort of secret sauce on helping people get best channels ever, onto the web?
Well, I don't think it's a thing. I think it was very predictable.
Okay.
And I only say that because I followed TV history.
Mm-hmm.
I had a company called Ripe Digital. We launched we launched on-demand networks in the mid-2000s. And Fast evolved just like on-demand. So, first none of the majors wanted to play because they were worried about cannibalizing their regular channel.
Right.
Then one or two majors came in, then everybody came in, the door was open, everybody needed content, then the window closes, and that's what's happening in Fast. So I think that the audience will follow the technology, and it's a matter of the platforms keeping the technology interesting enough for the audience to maintain them.
So one of the criticisms sort of in the industry is we're turning streaming into television. That we're doing exactly what linear did 20 years ago. We're just doing it on this device as opposed to the TV. And so you mentioned keeping things interesting. There's conversations obviously around a number of things, but how do we sort of take Fast and make it better than TV so that people will then want to watch that? Cannibalization aside, will want to watch that.
Well, I think it's a tricky business. I thought, so I was at Starz when we did the research in 2001 for Time Warner and Comcast. How was on-demand ever going to work?
Sure.
There was there were video stores on every corner.
Sure.
And nobody believed that on-demand would ever work. Well, lo and behold, 10 years later, nobody can believe it was ever any other way.
Right.
The same is going to happen, I think, with streaming. I think the answer is, let's not forget the base technology, but let's also remember that there's new technology. So what I'm a marketer, what I'm into is how can I do a live chat with some of my talent during the actual broadcast. Right now I've got to use a companion device, but soon I think that's all going to get started to be built in as soon as we prove that it's going to work. So I think that TV will go more interactive.
Okay.
I think audiences want to engage, not all the time. Sometimes they want to sit back. But even when they're sitting back, sometimes they want the stats, or they want to know what other movie was she in, So I think it's happening. I think it's just happening a lot slower than we thought.
That searchability and interactivity. Now, parts of that then require lower latencies. And what we've seen is companies chase to what I think are ridiculously low latencies on one level because they're going after sportsbook and auctions and that kind of thing. But from a Fast standpoint, I would think it's as much about synchronization as it is about latency, because if you're trying to have a conversation with somebody back channel as part of the Fast environment, you don't necessarily have to be at 500 milliseconds. You could be a second and a half or 2 seconds and do some sort of synchronization to make sure everybody's on the same frame, so to speak.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it depends on the genre, it depends on the content. We have a music channel, and we're going to be doing some live music events. We're going to be doing an awards show. In that case, you want you want to be perfect.
Right.
There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of, latency just wouldn't work. But we also have other channels where it's not such a big deal, or where even being live doesn't really matter that much. And
so if you're sitting 2 years from now, what do you want the Fast channels to look like?
I want them to have a frame around them that allows me as a viewer to interact with both what I'm watching as well as what I want to watch.
Okay.
And not just with a particular channel, but also with the platform itself. I mean, how many times have you sat at home and you're like, where can I find this movie?
Sure.
And you search and you search and you may find it eventually, but you get lost along the way and half hour goes by, you haven't even spent any time watching the movie, right? So, so I think there's a lot of opportunity for technology to sort of answer some of those.
Well, and
problems.
you know, you say that, and it's interesting. We'll just sort of wrap on this. There were a number of companies back in the late '90s in streaming, and sort of fell off after the first bust, and then came back around the 2006 timeframe, that had functions where they could search across multiple on-demand systems. Can I watch it, I think, or is it on? You know, there are different companies like that. What you're suggesting is that actually that's not a separate thing that you go to find stuff. It's actually integrated into the FAST
I think
solution.
that's the way to do it.
Okay.
I mean, there are industry issues that prevent that being done in a really great way, but I think that the industry can adjust.
Okay.
You know, look, some people are trying that already. Plex has a solution for that. And ultimately, if people find out about that and it works, I think that'll...
The trend will go naturally.
The trend will go naturally
awesome.
that way, yeah.
Jonathan, thank you for your time very much.
Thank you so much,
we'll
Tim.
be right back with our next guest.